All right, hello everyone. Here we are back for another guide. And the way that I'm going to play this hole is going to kind of vary depending on wind scenario. I'd really like to do a rough bump here, but that's going to be, very challenging shot. The only other thing that I can think of to do in this situation is going to be to kind of hop this over this spot right here, kind of right in this general range. We're going to need to do definitely an overplay. That's max club here. So I played this very close to max, 7 rings. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So you can see that it lands very aggressive and then rolls out. That's actually a pretty good shot, but you can see that it was very aggressively done. We're going to have to be a little bit creative without, I don't recommend you guys doing that, but if you don't have an epoch 6, you can't jack that backspin up. This is a much easier shot for an epoch 6. You can see my opponent has an epoch 6, so you can play much more backspin. This is how I'm going to recommend you guys doing it, with, kind of full backspin, maybe 6 or 7 bars. And playing it very much more aggressively. Of course, we can't see the way that this guy is aiming. So one of the things that you can do, if you want to put numbers to this real quick, let's just see how this winds up. But, as I mentioned, I was pretty much playing the max number. So I could just use no elevation, and I went the 7 rings-ish, without needing to, do anything special in that situation with that wind. With using the notebook app, it was just kind of use my max number instead of min. So, the downhill elevation, if you want to, put some numbers to it, where you see that min is basically where my driver position was. So getting that min up to max, you can see there it's at 6.9 instead of 7.1. It's about 30% elevation, more or less. It's going to be a nice estimation. But what I do probably recommend, it would be nice to know this, but it's just not very practical, common knowledge, and it's going to run you some more time to always do that calculation. But if you wanted to know, use the slider, for instance, I could get this down here, right towards min club, the 7.1, which is very close to the amount of rings that I went. So this is just, supplemental information, just something to think about. It might help you, long term be able to kind of play a lot more of the win scenarios, knowing this fact and actually using the slider, but it's also going to waste a little bit too much time for shootouts. You don't really necessarily have quite as much time to set those up as, approaches. It just seems like, it's more common knowledge to, have a sniper and be able to, use the slider a little bit more fast. When you get up to the tee on a par 3, it's really hard to use the slider without running out of time, because you have to consider so much more on the tee as the way, you have to think about which method am I going to use. There's 4 different ways I can play this shot, and it's like I have to pull out the one that is going to give me, I'm not going to play that same landing zone for every wind. If I had a headwind, I could have replicated my opponent's shot and done it with some curl. So these are things that you just need to be thinking about for that shootout. As the wind gets more towards a headwind, 4 backspin is enough for me to stop it where my opponent just landed it. It's just not in a tailwind situation. So these are the things that you want to be thinking about. Good luck with that hole, and catch you guys on the next one.